Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Like other honorable members who would have expressed condolences to the people of Fancy, I continue to do the same. The Ministry of Education does that. But I also want to add that expressions of sympathy to the families and the missing students were received from the following: the Chief Education Officers of Grenada and St. Lucia, the Director of Education in Antigua, the Permanent Secretary, Education, Dominica, the UNICEF Office for Barbados and Eastern Caribbean, the UNESCO Cluster Office in Jamaica, the Caribbean Development Bank, the OECS Commission, and the Caribbean Examinations Council. They also sympathize with us. I would also like to express sympathy to the family of Mr. Otis Jack. He is a member of our staff, and he was assigned to the Curriculum Development Unit and also to the Community College. He has since passed. May his soul rest in peace. Before us today, Mr. Speaker, is the budgetary measures for 2015. Mr. Speaker, every time I come to this honorable house and have to speak on the budget, I remember what we would have undergone over many months, many weeks, many hours. That we've got a team in our government, a team of persons who are into economics, and we sit and we discuss. I know that sometimes people out there, they wonder, what are these people talking about in the House? Is it that you just put some numbers on a paper and you go and you argue, one side arguing one thing, one side arguing the other thing? No, it is not that. There is methodology. There is a way, a right way in which it is done. And Mr. Speaker, these people are so prudent that you have to give the whys and the wherefores when you ask for anything for your ministry. And that is nothing but the truth. Mr. Speaker, the economy of this country is in good hands. I can tell you that these people are good. You have to be able to know what you are about, because we are dealing with the people of our state. Mr. Speaker, in so doing, there is a theme which was put together, and it reads, continuing the quest for wealth and job creation, equity, resilience, and fiscal consolidation in a small multi-island economy in the midst of exogenous challenges. Mr. Speaker, it is a look at what is happening in our country. This group of persons would have, with the government ministers, we have been looking at our country and looking at what is happening and what is workable. So today, before us, we have a budget that is workable, brings hope. We have a budget that is good. We have a budget that was well crafted. It is not anything that came out of the sky, because we know that it is important that our people receive that which is best. Mr. Speaker, in Roman numeral 1, we have details of expenditure. So after looking now at the theme, you put the details, and the details under the current expenditure are on wages and salaries, pensions and NIS, other transfers, interest payments, goods and services, amortization, sinking fund contribution. And under the capital, we have general public services, public order and safety, economic affairs, environmental protection, housing and community amenities, health, recreation, culture and religion, education, and special social protection. Mr. Speaker, if we are traveling, we need a roadmap. We need to know what we must do. And so we have come now to the sum total of $971,367,582 in this budget. Mr. Speaker, in the estimates presented by the Honorable Prime Minister, we are reminded that strategically we must at one and the same time secure incremental growth and consolidation in all spheres while pursuing the guided structural changes in the economy. We have to be courageous, Mr. Speaker, in times like these, because since 2008, the global economy is yet to recover because things have been happening. The major economies are still reeling from the global economic meltdown in 2008 and its consequences thereafter. To be sure, the economy of the United States of America ended the year 2014 stronger than it began, but its growth was still modest, though improving. The economies of Europe and Japan are at one level or another remain in the throes of an economic crisis. The growth in the economics of China, India, Russia, Brazil, Turkey, Mexico, and Argentina has slowed. In some cases, the slowdown has been swift and dramatic. Mr. Speaker, we are saying here that things are rough, but it is not only in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we know for sure that what happens in other places, there are ripple effects coming to us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Mr. Speaker, the regional economies, particularly those which are tourism-based, have been experiencing since 2008 low or no growth. You see, this budget, it is speaking the truth about our situation here. Rising public debt burdens and increasing fiscal challenges. In many cases, the real economy is yet to return to pre-2008 levels. Mr. Speaker, this is saying that we are facing reality here. For the year 2014, as is seen, if we would have done our work for the year 2014, economic growth for St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been estimated at the very modest level of 1.1% by the recent staff mission of the IMF. And the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, he also alluded to this, because this is a truism. Now, the level of growth is essentially flat and problematic. And we know that this is so. They project a further modest 1.5% real economic growth for 2015 and a more robust 3% economic growth in 2016, consequent upon the opening of the Argyle International Airport. Mr. Speaker, on page 10 points here to the productive sectors. You see, we must be able to produce. If we are working, we can't be working at a loss. And we have to look at those areas that will produce so that our people can have a better life. The main productive sectors of the economy are agriculture and the fisheries, tourism, manufacturing, construction, transport, air, sea, and roads, banking and finance, wholesale and retail trade, education and health services, electricity and communications, water and solid waste services, and public administration. Mr. Speaker, it is an analysis which any good government has to do. Now, I want us to take a little peep at seaport development. And on page 21, we can see here where the budget is pointing us to on page 21, yes, the modification and extension of the CDB Finance St. Vincent and the Grenadines port rationalization study, which is targeted at the upgrade, modernization, and relocation of the main seaport at Kingstown. Many of us know that we have great problems. And when you have problems, we have to find solutions. The second one speaks to the effecting of a study for the elaboration of a project for the seaport needs of the entire Grenadines. Mr. Speaker, the Grenadines are invaluable to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not only for Bequia as was previously determined, but we know we do not have all the resources, but at least we can look for those strategic areas where we can really improve. It speaks also to the actual extension of the cruise ship berth in Port Kingstown. The improvement of the port infrastructure at the Camden Park container port. We are doing business and we have to upgrade from time to time. The development of a berth facility at Tafia Bay, Canouan, jointly between the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Port Authority and the Canouan developers. Mr. Speaker, it is important that fishing, and this is what we are saying here, we really have to do these improvements because fishing will help to raise the growth of the economy in our country. On page 29, I look at renewable energy. Mr. Speaker, and in particular, this last paragraph speaks to solar energy. And it says our government, having set the broad policy of encouraging the development of solar power, has mandated the Energy Unit and the VINLEC in conjunction with the Ministry of Energy to drive the process. Our government calls to be done an energy audit of 79 government buildings with a view to enhance energy efficiency and to install renewable energy facilities, especially those relating to solar energy on these buildings. Mr. Speaker, it was just recently that one of the buildings in which our civil servants worked, it was so bad that the roof was so bad that we had to hasten to get them out of it. I say that to say that over the years, our government buildings were given scant attention. They were not well done. We should not be renting because we know how much money the rent takes from the coffers of the government. And so this is one of the reasons that we are looking at this. Mr. Speaker, on page 36, I am talking about topics in the budget that are very important. I will not be able to cover everything. Hello? The budget address, yes. This budget is hinged on what is in this big book. Yeah, this one, the address. On 36. On that first paragraph, it says that further in the 2015 estimates, a provision of 1.3 million has been made for basic rehabilitative and upgrading work at the Kingston bus terminal at Little Tokyo. Resources which were earmarked for this activity in 2014 were redirected. And Mr. Speaker, I am so glad that this has been phrased like this. Because if in your own home, where you have some monies allocated for certain little projects, and there are emergencies, you have to redirect that money. And this is what our government would have done. They redirected that money to the recovery process. Mr. Speaker, this was important to do, consequent upon the storm of December 2013. And I know that there is no one who would dispute this when we would have looked at what happened on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Christmas Eve night, at what happened to our people. There was much trauma, Mr. Speaker. My ministry is responsible for the shelters. And Mr. Speaker, at this time, I give thanks to those corporate citizens who would have seen the importance of coming and bringing whatever they had to help us. Restorative work at Little Tokyo is a priority for the city in 2015. Little Tokyo needs to be upgraded. It is an eyesore, as we rarely even look at the roofs of some of those little shops. And persons are paying their rent, but we want to be fair to our people. But when we start, we want to make sure that everything is done to help them. Additionally, the sum of $500,000 is available to assist in a cleanup Kingston campaign. This cleanup in Kingston is not only happening now, or will not only happen now. This has been done a long time ago since we started. We had some little problems that we faced. In Kingston, you have so many rats. I can remember at one time asking the police to come with their hoses and try to hose out some of the trenches. You had rats there, they had no hair on their skin. Big old ones. We had lots of cats in Tokyo, that there was a time you had to cull some of these cats, because we know that they too can spread leptospirosis. And there were lots of fleas. So the cleanup is not an easy thing to handle, because you clean up today and tomorrow you find people dirty in the place again. They try to hide from you. I remember one day coming over to that Central Market. I disguised and we were there. We spent a whole day and we tried to clean up. Thankfully, many of the people, they cooperated. But here we are again, back to some of the old things that we had removed. It is not an easy task, but again, in this budget, it is said that we are going to continue. In 2015 too, there will be the unveiling of a $33 million project, phase 1, for the further development of government buildings in Kingstown. The budgeted expenditure for this project in 2015 is $7 million to purchase and develop a parcel of land and unfinished structure owned by BICO. Many of us who pass through town, we can see this, and that's to commence reconstruction on another government building on Back Street. The savings from rented accommodation would easily finance the cost of constructing these government buildings. The NIS also plans to develop a property at Murray's Road, formerly belonging to Sir Cuthbert Woodruff, which is purchased last year to house offices for rental. Mr. Speaker, on page 39 of that address, in budget 2015, our government has allocated $40.2 million, or 13.6% of the capital estimates to environment protection and disaster preparedness under the World Bank Finance Regional Disaster Vulnerability Project and the CDB Finance Companion Project for Natural Disaster Management, Rehabilitation, and Reconstruction. At this point, Mr. Speaker, I want to pause to commend NEMO, to commend those people who are working there. They work beyond the call of duty, but it is for the general good of our country. There is, in fact, over $100 million available over the next 3 years for the World Bank International Development Association alone. So from the CDB, there are soft loans for natural disaster management, as was evident in Hurricane Thomas and April 2011 floods, amounting to $37 million, and a further $24.4 million for the December 2013 disaster. Further, from the European Union, there is a $24 million grant towards rehabilitation after the December 2013 disaster. There is significant local counterpart funding to all of these extreme loans and grants, which the government will raise through local loans. Mr. Speaker, we cannot expect government to do everything. And the corporate citizens have been very, very, very good. And this is why we have come out so successfully out of those traumas that we had undergone recently. Much of the 40.2 million embarked for capital spending in 2015, particularly the World Bank's 20.9 million under the RDVRP, will go towards technical studies and designs for various projects. You see, sometimes some people feel that you can just get up overnight and do your work. It cannot work that way. You have to do your studies. You have to do your designs. You have to do everything. It is absolutely necessary that we prepare these projects carefully and implement them to last, thus strengthening our nation's resilience. Whatever we do, we in this government want to do it properly. On page 46, I am talking about what the budget holds for us, Mr. Speaker. Health and wellness. I am glad. I am very, very glad because of what I see here and how health and wellness impacts not only on our country, but really on the Ministry of Education. Health and wellness help us from the time that the baby is in the womb. And more attention is paid these days than was paid before. Mr. Speaker, the mothers go to the clinic, the babies are born, food is put into the clinic so that they can have it. Before they come to get their education, they have to be well immunized. And at one point in the education system, where sometimes we would see some children, they look listless as they came into work. And the health team came in. What did we find? Some children, their blood was low. Some of them, they had tapeworms. Some of them, as soon as they came, they fell asleep. And we noted all these, and we complained to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And they, from that time, they have come, and they have been working more closely with our schools. Not only in this way, but also to help us to work out the nutrition package that our feeding program can do justice to our children. Mr. Speaker, in the field of agriculture, I am from Mariquah. We have been nicknamed the breadbasket of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In Mariquah, we, the people, would never give up. Regardless to disease, regardless to storms, whatever it is, we will find a way of trying to feed ourselves and even to continue to send food to the region. Mr. Speaker, the government has tried. The government would have given much help to our farmers after Thomas. We had to do the cutback, we had to do plant back, whatever it is. We fought with the Moko disease, but we are still not giving up. Mr. Speaker, we know that we must diversify. I have been to many meetings in Ecuador and other places, and we have been talking about bananas. One of the things I note, Mr. Speaker, because I grew up with farmers who have been agriculturists. I know in former times, those who had much land, what did they do? They rested some part of the land, and they rotated their planting. But when banana was king, every square inch of that land was planted up with bananas. It is true to say that some parts of our country, the land is poor. What added to it was the floods. Much of the topsoil would have been washed away. And these, we cannot help. What we have to do, we have to get up again. After the storms and the floods would have passed, we have to get up and we have to do our work. Mr. Speaker, I think of the elderly. There are many persons who have a house, but they have no one to look after them. That program that we have to take care of the elderly, it is really, really a blessing to our country. What do the home helpers do? Show that they're, Mr. Speaker, loneliness is not good. And if we can take care of our elderly people, we know that there is going to be a blessing for us. Mr. Speaker, geriatric care in this country is delivered free of cost. The government is doing its best to make sure that these services are given. Mr. Speaker, when we look at the mental health, geriatric, the mental health division, when one would have visited down there in that facility, one would have seen that the building was old and that it needed to be repaired. Our government made this a priority and found an alternative place to put these persons so that they could be comfortable. And today, they are up at Orange Hill. Mr. Speaker, we look at those at Louis Burnett, and sometimes when we think of the history of that place, we would remember that that man called Mr. Louis Burnett, in his wisdom, he thought that they were the have-nots and that he would make provision for them. There was the building and there were lands that surround the building. But I believe it was poor governance that so many persons have squatted around there. We know that for the elderly, they would need their wheelchairs. They would need a building that is flat, where they can move from place to place. That is a place that has different stories, and many of the persons, they are old. But we are hopeful that that too would change, even though there is not much land around there. And on page 52, our budget speaks to that. It says the mentally challenged persons are being cared for principally through the community health services and the specialized institution known as the Mental Health Center. So in 2015, a recurrent budget of $3.959 million is provided to staff and operate the MHC. This sum for 2015 is $1.55 million, or 65% more than the budgetary allocation for the year 2001. Currently, the MHC is temporarily housed at Orange Hill at a facility constructed at a cost of $1.3 million, while the MHC's home at Glen is being rehabilitated or rebuilt. Work has commenced on this $3.8 million project. We are taking care of the vulnerable in our community. Mr. Speaker, to be sick in the head, oh, it is pitiable. We look at some of our young people who are there, regardless of what is the cause that might cause them to be there. Yet they are there, and it is the burden of government to make sure that they live as human beings should. Mr. Speaker, housing. In my own life, Mr. Speaker, before our government was in office, I worked hand in hand with overseas agencies trying to improve housing in our land without a cent from government. Mr. Speaker, government has been trying. In the field of housing, no one can say that government is delinquent. And in a few years to come, I don't think that there would be anybody in this country who would not be properly housed, whether you have or whether you don't have. Mr. Speaker, there are basic needs and there are basic rights for the people in our country, and this is one of the focus of a ULP government. Mr. Speaker, there is a program to come on stream this year. It is dubbed Health and Wellness, and more than that, Lives to Live. As we move through the constituencies, there are many persons who, either because of illness or even carelessness during the times when they were strong, their houses are not in proper order. Mr. Speaker, there are some of them who cannot go to the bathroom easily. Some of them have none. And what did we say while we planned? We said that we were going to make life better for them, and so we call it Lives to Live. We are going to try to help those persons who would be in their homes and are never brought outside. Bring them out into the sunlight. We will be able to put ramps so that they can go to their bathrooms and would be able to hold on to something that would be put there that they can get water washing their skin, rather than for you to be giving them a dry wipe because they cannot make it. Mr. Speaker, it is very, very important that we look at the vulnerable of our country. Mr. Speaker, I noted with interest that one speaker before me, he did not think well of the education revolution and said education revolution as though that was nothing. I don't know if there are persons who think of a revolution where you have to be fighting with sticks and stones. No, it is not that for us in education. It is a dramatic and wide-reaching change, and a change that would affect the lives of every boy, girl, man, or woman in this country. This was how we started out. It is one of the major planks to getting our people out of poverty. It is to educate them. Mr. Speaker, when we first began, we improved all the schools in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We cleaned them up. We painted them up. And Mr. Speaker, we knew that the environment was important for learning. We spoke of the quantity and quality aspects of our school children. And so we did our best to make sure that that happened. But that was only the beginning. What did we do? Turn to story YWCA facility. Many of us who know what the facility was up at Richmond Hill, it was not good at all. And Granny Rose, she was the one who pushed that we can have this facility upgraded to look at early childhood care. And may I say now, Mr. Speaker, that early childhood care in St. Vincent and the Grenadines was not given the focus that it should have been given. Many persons acted as babysitters. Many of them, they taught our little children to write, which was not the thing to do. But the one at YWCA was one that was very well run by Granny Rose and her team. Mr. Speaker, we had to strengthen security at our educational institutions. People used to walk in and fight and disrupt, but we strengthened that. In special education, a quality new school for children with special needs was built and opened in Georgetown. Mr. Speaker, I went there with some friends from England, and I remember that one of the boys, he was asked to say a thank you. And every one of us who were there, we left with teary eyes, because he said, we used to feel that nobody cared about us. But he was glad to have our team come in and visit. The physical facilities at the school in Kingstown, that was changed. Mr. Speaker, one of the things we always say in education is that a man cannot give what he hasn't got. And so we thought of training for all levels of our teachers. Most principals at the primary level are now 2015 university graduates. Mr. Speaker, the achievement of universal secondary education in September was achieved in 2005. New secondary schools were opened at Sandy Bay, Connery, West St. George, Richmond Hill, and Buccament. New secondary schools were built at Mackey's Hill, Edinburgh, Peters Hope, Union Island, and Belay. Several of the other secondary schools were expanded, and I remember the opposition we got when we tried with Thomas Saunders. Oh, Mr. Speaker, one would have thought that we were doing something wrong. But today, children want to go because it is doing well. Mr. Speaker, I was up there one morning when school reopened, and one parent said to me, Mrs. Miguel, if you move Mr. Renton from there, we are going to fight you. The building of a modern state-of-the-art two-story technical center at Kingstown. The center commenced offering services to students in 2006. A mass adult literacy campaign was conducted with huge successes over an 18-month period. Mr. Speaker, we went crusading everywhere in this country. And further impressive work in this regard is being done on an ongoing basis by the Adult and Continuing Education Division of the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, we felt that we have to meet people at their level. And so the construction of 13 learning resource centers nationwide in these places, in Sandy Bay, Connery, South Rivers, North Union, Bayaboo, Evesham, Villa, Kittels, Layou, Barley, North Leeward, Upper Cane Hall, and Union Island. Mr. Speaker, integration of all the 4 post-secondary colleges now known as the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College. The Prime Minister would have given some details. Along with preparing students for the CXC and CAPE examinations, the college provides training for associate degrees and up to the level of university degrees. There was the appointment of graduate teachers in the primary schools from 2010. Mr. Speaker, we know that with our students, they are not all bright. Some of them are not too slow. Some are extremely slow. So we established what we call the Student Support Services Unit in 2009. And that is to cater for students with behavioral issues and those in need of remediation intervention. Mr. Speaker, there was a payment of salaries for the majority of teachers in most government-assisted schools. That was not done before. There was an increased enrollment of Vincentian students at universities around the world. The number of university-trained teachers at the primary level has moved from 10 in 2001 to over 300 in 2014. Mr. Speaker, the book loan scheme, we are trying our very best. We know that there are times when there are persons who really don't have. And we are making sure, as I said before, there is that $1 million which has been set aside in this year's budget in order to continue the book loan scheme. The expansion of the student loan program to include loans for economically disadvantaged students who have no collateral for security. Mr. Speaker, we are taking care of our children in education. Mr. Speaker, there has been the building of a modern state-of-the-art automotive repair training center at the Technical College at Arnesville. We have to look at areas of need, and here is our point of focus in education. The expansion of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College includes the physical facilities expansion of the Division of Arts, Sciences, and General Studies to include more classrooms, lecture halls, science labs, administrative, student support facilities, and specially designed facilities for art. This third phase of the college expansion program was financed by the EU at a cost of more than $30 million. Mr. Speaker, there was full computerization of secondary schools and partial computerization in primary schools. In 2011, all primary students and their teachers from grade 2 to grade 5 were presented with laptop computers under the one laptop per student program. Full access to broadband, internet at all educational institutions and learning resource centers. The building of the modern National Public Library and the marked improvement in library services throughout the state with the refurbishing and upgrading of several branch libraries. Even though we've got libraries within our schools, yet we have our branch libraries at work. Mr. Speaker, we have seen improvement in mathematics, English language, and the sciences at the external examinations. Mr. Speaker, we continued with the laptops. The distribution of brand new Acer laptops to all secondary students and their teachers in July 2014. Some divisions at the community college also received Acer laptops at the beginning of the school year. And Mr. Speaker, we hope to continue to do the best that we can. We would also have been told about the switch from the local common entrance examinations for grade 6 to the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment administered by the Caribbean Examinations Council. Mr. Speaker, we are looking at quality. We have been doing so much. Mr. Speaker, I wish I could stand here and speak all day and tell you about the achievements that we would have had in education. I know you want it. What's wrong with you? Yes, but from time to time, we would have been here and I would have given reports and answered questions and tell you what we have been doing in education. Mr. Speaker, the regulations to accompany the Education Act are being finalized. So even though we are doing our physical works, there are other works which we must do. We know that with all that we are doing, we need school attendance officers. Mr. Speaker, for me, sometimes I would pass on the road and you would see children along the road. They are late sometimes for school, and this cannot work. My interventions would have come into place as I would pass and go to the schools and speak with the principals to find out why. Children should be there for worship, if they care to, but at least it is part of what we do. But some of them, they are there and they do not come early. I know that many parents have to go to work. And as they leave home for work, the children are left on their own. Some of them are good. They go straight to school. But there are those who may not go and get themselves into trouble. And so we are going to begin by having a school attendance officer whose duty would include enforcing compulsory attendance at school. So the officer would liaise with, there are areas go to certain schools, I don't want to call their names, at one time to go and adopt that school and make sure that our children are in line. But is it not our duty? And the education officers, they understand this, and they also fall in line. The Ministry of Education will shortly sign a cooperation agreement with the Martinican Academy to facilitate educational exchanges among teachers and among students. This is aimed at enhancing their competence in the French language. This cooperation agreement will be supported by the French Embassy to the OES and the Alliance Française of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We've got a foreign languages program in the primary schools. Our children should not leave school without learning a foreign language or two. And we have to prepare them for tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. From an early age, we are trying our best to teach them and to nurture them. Mr. Speaker, I am really glad to report to this Honorable House that there are 87 schools which are in the school cooperative program. Mr. Speaker, it was not an easy task to spread the gospel of credit unionism. I remember in one of the schools in which I taught, when I asked parents, they excused themselves. And then I asked myself, what then shall I do? But then I spoke with the children, and I asked the children to speak with their parents. It is good that we teach them to be thrifty. In a day like today, Mr. Speaker, what would it have been without our cooperatives? And so we are beginning at the beginning in our schools. And so there are 87 schools in the school cooperative program, and savings are close to the $1 million mark. Mr. Speaker, it is good for me to tell you of a few schools that are top savers. The St. Vincent Girls High School, the Mustique Government School, and we have 2 students here who are from the Mustique Government School. 2 top school cooperatives, Georgetown Government, South Rivers, and my own Richland Park Government. Mr. Speaker, for 2015, the budget promises us the upgrading of the Ministry of Education head office. It is to the tune of $170,000. Mr. Speaker, since I was a teenager, I visited that building, and I am older now, and I am still working in that building. And I remind us of what I said before, that many of the government buildings in Kingstown, they were not touched. And we really need a home for our ministry. So this 2015 budget promises the Ministry of Education that we will have a home. We want to get an accreditation department. We have the reprographics units. We have the reprographics unit. There is where the youth, they are the ones that repair the computers. Mr. Speaker, the other day I stood in silence as I saw a computer that was brought back. The screen was completely gone. I am saying this to tell you there are good parents, good aunties and uncles who would help us to take care of those things that we spend so much money for. But Mr. Speaker, I know this was part of carelessness on the part of that child. But nevertheless, we have taken on the young people who have the computer skills. And they are the ones who are doing the repairs, because we must repair in order that the programs will go on. And so we would need that reprographics unit where they can have more room. There's a little one there, but it is not enough. Examinations and assessment unit, and we also need a storeroom. Mr. Speaker, we need a new vehicle. There are so many vehicles around, but many of them are old. You can't even find parts to put into them. But we are promised one for 2015. Furniture and equipment for educational institutions. Mr. Speaker, what I have noticed is that I know that our carpenters try to do their best. And when you look at the back of a bench coming off from the piece that's holding it on the ground, you would see there are some little sprigs. So that if the child moves too violently, it is gone. So we have to, at all times, try our very best to keep them off the floor, make sure that repairs are done so that our children can be comfortable. The Ministry of Education continues to focus on improving the delivery of Technical and Vocational Education, and we name it TVET. The ministry sees technical and vocational education and training as one of the linchpins in our development process. The project will provide some of the necessary equipment for the delivery of technical and vocational education and training. There are 2 other projects which are supporting the delivery of technical and vocational education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. These are the Technical and Vocational Education Development Project funded by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Caribbean Development Bank, and the Technical and Vocational Educational Project funded by the Republic of China on Taiwan. May I say hats off to the ministry, to the Republic of China on Taiwan, as they reach out to the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, some of our students, they are from very impoverished homes. And we know with our fallout in bananas, many of our persons from the rural areas, they have gravitated towards the town. You would see so many trays, you would see so many ice boxes. They are trying to make a living. And they do need that hand up in order to help the children to have more food or even to have bits of clothing. Although my sister ministry of social development, they give a hand. You see, education cannot really stand on its own. We have to depend on our sister ministries in order to help us to carry the process forward. And this is what is happening. Minister, thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, this project will develop a master plan for the St. Vincent Grammar School and the Girls' High School. We go there from time to time. We know that these are old buildings, especially the Girls' High School, but with good leadership, you can see that the principal and the teachers, they are trying to do their best. So the major activity for this year is to engage a consultant to assess both institutions and recommend the plan. Yes, but please bear with me, Honorable Member. Please bear with me. During last year, 400,000 was expanded to refurbish the 3 laboratories at the St. Vincent Grammar School. The boys now have a facility where they can complete their lab work. That's important, and of which they can be proud. Braxa is to complete some work on the exterior of the laboratories. You see, we have to do it in phases, in stages, Honorable Member, Mr. Speaker. 4 years. Please bear with me, Honorable Member. Yes, Honorable Member, but please, I'm coming down to answering your question. 4 years. The St. Vincent Grammar School laboratories had 1 way in and 1 way out. And the gas cylinders were stored in the only access point. Am I right? Yes. With the funding from the Basic Needs Trust Fund, an emergency exit will be installed, thus making the laboratories safer. So you see how systematic we are trying to do our work. Then hear you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, you know I'm on your side. You know I always do good work down there. Look at the state-of-the-art school you have. Look at the state-of-the-art school you have. Yes. You are poised for upgrade. You are poised for upgrade, Honorable Member. Now, the ministry continues to upgrade educational institutions throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Kingston Anglican School will have major upgrades done. So too the Argyle Primary School. Work has commenced on the Argyle Primary School and should be completed in the next 2 weeks. The Kingston Government and the Dorsetshire Hill Government Schools will be upgraded during this year. The work is expected to commence during August 2015. When completed, the schools will be used as emergency shelters. You see, we have to put these shelters in strategic positions so that in the event something happens in the night, that we can really put our people to safety. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education has continued to make the offering of education more equitable. It recognizes the importance of science education for the holistic development of our students. A number of teachers were trained to the bachelor level in chemistry. That is very important, biology and physics. 10 of these teachers were trained under the Basic Education Project, and these teachers are deployed throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, 6 rural secondary schools benefited from improved science facilities under the Education Support Program funded by the European Union. Science laboratories were constructed at North Union, Adelphi, St. Clair Dakin, Pettibodel, Bethel High School, and Beckway Community High School. When last did you visit, Honorable Member? Tell me, when last did you visit? Honorable Member. All right, let me tell you more. You see, you must bear with me. Bear with me, please. Under this secondary school expansion project, provisions were made for the construction of a further 4 science laboratories at the George Stevens Senior Secondary, Thomas Saunders Secondary, Bookament Bay Secondary, and Trumuka Secondary Schools. So we are continuing. The science laboratories were substantially completed during 2014, with the exception of the Bookament Bay Secondary, which will be completed in 2015. Also, during this year, designs will be done for the upgrade of science laboratories for the intermediate high and the Sandy Bay secondary schools. Mr. Speaker, Sandy Bay, we have to continue doing some work. And there is an allocation of $500,000 this year, 2015, to establish an administrative block at the Sandy Bay Secondary School, to complete the science lab at the Bookament Bay Secondary, and to pay some retention fees. Mr. Speaker, I pause to say congratulations to the staff, the principals, the teachers in the Ministry of Education. Oh, so much work has been done. A lot of work has been done. Now we must be consolidating. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to forget to say that in the business of early childhood, although I did say it when we debated here, the estimates, but we are going to have 7 more early childhood centers. Mr. Speaker, the privately owned schools, you have to pay a fee. Some people have nothing, and so the children should not stay home. And government is continuing to try. Mr. Speaker, we are looking at our school leavers and those who would have fallen by the way. We continue our crusade in order to try to invite them to come and improve themselves. And there are some youths who are at risk. Our counselors are really doing well to help them, and even to reach their homes and see where they live, because it is very, very important. Sometimes within the homes, and I don't know if some of us might know this, but sometimes there is fighting, there is animosity. Sometimes the children come to us, they are sleeping. And sometimes when you try to find out, you would understand a little better. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the second cohort of grade 6 students will sit the CPEA. Students sitting the exam in 2014, they reported that they had some anxiety, and all of us had some anxiety. But Mr. Speaker, as an older teacher, I know it is the better way. And our children can participate better in what they are doing. And so the ministry will continue to support teachers in the implementation of CPEA for the benefit of all our students. I look at some of them, they are busy now. They are trying to hand in their work that they had to do at home, and they are guided by their teachers. And this is what should happen. We cannot leave them on their own. They will listen to they plug their ears and they will listen to the radio, and they do so many things. Oh, how we have to guide them. It is the nature of the Ministry of Education. But we've got work to do. Mr. Speaker, we have to let our teachers know that they have to give a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Yes, it is a vocation. Yes, I know there are some of them who are vigilant. There are some of them who don't count time. But there are some of them, you notice, I remember asking one gentleman one day, I said, do you really love to teach? And he said, no, well, before none any. Before no work, he take any work. Because he was not interested in it. But he left eventually. But apparently he got the job. It was not in our time. But I did have a chat with him. And so we are preparing to ask our teachers to do their special record keeping. You must plan your lesson. You cannot be poor in your performance. And we have better work done in our schools.
15 minutes, honorable member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we will be doing school inspections. And we will be asking our teachers to continue to do your best. Some of the young ones, as they learn from time to time, they can become better. We must do monitoring to do that. Mr. Speaker, I just want at this time to speak to the residents of Mariacoa. Mr. Speaker, as I said before, the economy of this country is in good hands. And I don't know who would try to disagree with me. Those of us with whom I have worked together, they will not disagree because they know the persons who are working with the budget director, they watch our pennies with lizard's eye. And I know that implementation is a problem for us. And the honorable leader of the opposition, he mentioned it. Yes, we have our plans. But many a time, implementation puts a block there for us. You know, and sometimes you set a date and it cannot be accomplished. But will we throw up our hands? No, we cannot throw up our hands. This is not what good governance is about. You must have a plan B and you must have a plan C in order to get the work done. Mr. Speaker, sometimes some people feel, oh, we speak of so many millions of dollars, but do we have those millions in our hands? No, it's money on paper. People need to understand it is money on paper. You have to collect it. You have to work for it. Yes. You have to collect it. So, Mr. Speaker, sometimes when you come and you discuss and I hear you saying certain things, oh, I know, well, Honorable Leader, I know that you understand it. And, you know, I must really commend you for the way in which you debated this time. You're a little more mellow and realistic. You were. Yes, Mr. Honorable Leader, you know I will tell you the truth. Yes. Yes. Honorable Leader, let me tell you one or two of the things you said. You said the capital budget stimulates growth. And we know that. It's a truism. If the capital budget is reduced, you have reduced growth. True. Internationally, the deficit less than 3.5% is not acceptable. Certainly not acceptable. The growth must be more rapid than this and must be better than this. Mr. Speaker, I must speak the truth at any time. Yes. Government owes private sector, and private sector owes government. You're talking to me, Honorable Leader. Yes. And I must really, really tell you that since I have been here, it's the best I enjoyed your speech. Yeah. Because I know in earlier times you say that a storybook thing, it is Alice in Wonderland. It is it is the Emperor's New Clothes, and you know, things like that. You know, very jokey. But I think this time you were serious. No. This. Anyway, we know what governance is all about. And I don't have to run now. I don't have to run now, my brother. Yes. So I am saying to us that be it opposition or government, we have to be serious when we represent our people's needs. And we need not make too many big jokes. Now let me speak to the people of Maracua, Mr. Speaker. Canaan playing field, we did some work. We closed it for 2 years, but because the place has been dug right in, we are down, we find Abu at the bottom of it. And the only answer might be astroturfing. We cannot, you know, the grass will not grow. And so the people there, they understand what they need some change rooms, and there are some monies allocated in the 2015 budget to help them. In Richton Park, we need to continue the work. I spent $87,000 trying to do the drainage, and now it needs the fencing, and it also needs a commentator's booth. I got an acre of land in Riley because over in that area, there is no playing area, and I have secured the land already. The roads. In Montreal, we know that Mr. Tim has the Montreal Gardens there, and he has been asking all the time, and the Honorable Minister has promised me that he would visit and that we can have the road repaired. The Cotton Ground Macmillan Road. Excuse me, please. Yes. Oh, yes, I'll hold on to his hand and get it done. Yes, in the village, there is Girlyn Corner Road, and I did ask BNTF to help, and I think I hear it's on the program now. The Red Dog Bridge, it is the last piece that spans that river. And that river, I think, had to be spanned 5 times, and that's the last piece to be done. The Fiji Highway work has started. Down in Piteni, in Mespo, the polyclinic is soon to start. And our little hospital will go over to Evesham, and we will have the clinic centrally near to the courtroom. There are bridges and gabions to be built. Our community center that was built by the people, it is yet to be relocated, and the abattoir as well. In housing, during the storms, I was able to repair 54 houses to help our people there. We still have some more to be done, and I am hoping that these would be done in the shortest possible time before the rains begin to fall. There are a few dark areas that need the street lights, but I will continue to lobby so that our community can be comfortable. People of Maracua, you know that I love you. The Kelboni, oh yes, I must tell the people that you reminded me. Yes, yeah, the Kelboni Road and also London Road. London Road, yes. That part going up to Mr. Horn, Yes, I remember it. But I would have given a list already to the Honorable Minister. So even though I miss one now, that doesn't say that I don't have it in my mind. But I just want to wish these budgetary measures safe passage through this Honorable House. I want to wish my colleagues on the other side and my colleagues on this side a very prosperous New Year. Please, let us pray. Let us ask for those technical officers who are charged with these big projects that all will go well. Whether you're on that side or on this side, all is for the good of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Mr. Speaker, Happy New Year to you. I am obliged.